Hey guys, Vince here. I'm not sure if any one of you guys are waiting for this video, but I did get a request to make this one, so I now bring to you Intermediate SOGIE. Because by definition, intermediate can mean having the knowledge that is more advanced than a beginner, but not yet an expert. If you have not yet seen my basic SOGIE video or do not have any background of SOGIE yet, I recommend that you watch it first. I'll put the link below. But if you already have, you deserve a pat on the back for taking a step further on learning more about gender, since this is a follow-up video of my basic SOGIE. I don't want to teach you guys something I'm not entirely sure about, but the least I can do is to tell you guys my own understanding about the following things I'm going to talk about in this video. This time though, just to give you a heads up, it may not be as simple as the basic SOGIE. Well duh, hence the name Intermediate SOGIE. Yes, because gender is anything but simple. I will still try to simplify things even just a little. Hopefully I can. Also, I just really wanted to give credit to Sam Killerman's A Guide to Gender book, which is, I will show here. It has been really helpful and I recommend you guys to check it out. It's a really good read. If you enjoyed this video of mine and the rest, I'm sure you will enjoy it like 100 times more. Before anything, I need you guys to not forget anything that you learned about the basic SOGIE, because I assume by now you are now familiar with the definition of terms there. Speaking of terms, I want to introduce to you guys some new terms that I might be using in the video later. First term is intersex. Now, intersex is a condition where someone has both female and male characteristics. There are many different ways that intersex can present itself. Here we have a table of how intersex can present itself, and it also shows the frequency of intersex births. I learned some of these conditions from my psychiatry and pathology class. I just didn't know they were intersex conditions up until recently. Don't focus so much on that. I just wanted you guys to see how there are so many different intersex conditions, not just one. Next term is third gender. It is not exactly the best terminology there is, but some people still consider themselves as third gender, as it means someone that is outside the concepts of masculine and feminine. Don't get me wrong, it's not a gender expression, it's a gender identity. Next term is two-spirit. This is a distinct gender that describes indigenous North Americans who fulfill one of the many gender roles traditionally. Lastly, cisgender. Now, someone who's cisgender is having their biological sex match their gender identity and expression, which results to people perceiving your gender accurately. Okay, now, so for the intermediate SOGIE, for sexual orientation, I just want to add in a few more sexual orientations, because by now you would know that gender identity and sexual orientation, they are somehow interrelated, right? Like, you wouldn't know if you're straight, not unless, for example, your gender identity is male and you like someone whose gender identity is female, then you would know you're straight. So you now see how they are interrelated, but they do not define each other. I just wanted to point that out. But for genderqueer people, sometimes some genderqueer people do not identify with either male or female. So I'm going to introduce to you guys some new terms for the sexual orientation. Androsexual means that you're into males, men, and masculinity. Gynesexual means that you are into females, women, and femininity. Scoliosexual means that you are into people who are typically not cisgender. Now, I've already defined to you guys what cisgender means. Polysexual means that you're attracted to multiple genders, so that would be more than one. Pansexual is attracted to all types of people, regardless of the biological sex, regardless of the gender identity, and the gender expression. Asexual, since a means absence of, means there is no sexual attraction, but romantic and spiritual attraction may exist. Since I have already mentioned bisexuality and pansexuality, they are both forms of polysexuality. But don't get me wrong, polysexual doesn't necessarily mean that they engage in multiple romantic partners. So for gender identity, agender means someone who has no connection with the traditional system of gender. So they do not align with the concept of either man or woman. They just see themselves as existing without gender. Bigender is someone who fully identifies with two separate genders, usually the male and female identity, but it's not all the time, as long as that someone identifies with two separate gender identities. Bigender should not be confused with gender fluid. Gender fluid is someone who experiences varying gender identities at different times, which is different from by gender, because by gender typically they just identify with two separate genders. Now, I've mentioned gender queer before. I'm gonna add another definition for this one. Now, a gender queer individual is someone who does not identify within the gender binary, which means not exclusively male or female. Gender queer is not an identity itself. It's like a grouping of different gender identities. Even gender fluid is under gender queer, because being gender fluid does not identify within the gender binary. There are a lot of gender identities under gender queer. Some of the gender queer identities are gender, aliogender, demi-boy, demi-girl, intergender, polygender, pangender, situational gender fluid, gender, and trigender. There's just so many gender identities under gender queer. So let's talk about gender expression. I just wanted to add a few things about gender expression. So gender expression is very fluid, unlike gender identity, which for most people is permanent, but I'm not saying your gender identity is permanent. It can also change, but it's not as fluid as gender expression, because I'm just going to use myself as an example. I like wearing clothes for men, so that is masculine kind of expression, right? But then also I like shopping, so that's usually a very feminine thing to do. So you now see how your gender expression can vary at different times of the day. I just wanted to point out, because I know a lot of people who are misunderstood as being gay or whatever just because of their gender expression, but in reality they really are straight. Well, all in all, you have a majority gender expression though. Like, as for people who are mostly masculine, they are masculine, and for people who are mostly feminine, they are feminine. Frequently asked questions. Number 1, what is the difference between a hermaphrodite and a person who is intersex? The term hermaphrodite, which maybe you have thought of when I mentioned intersex earlier, is not an acceptable term, because that refers to someone who is entirely female and male at the same time, which is biologically impossible. So that is why I showed you guys the different ways that intersex can present itself. Number 2, are polysexual and pansexual the same? The answer is no, because polysexuality should not be confused with pansexuality, because as we all know, pan meaning bread, pan meaning all, and poly means many, but not necessarily all. Number 3, if I'm into men and trans men, or if I'm into women and trans women, does that mean I'm polysexual? No, because if you're into men and trans men, basically you're androsexual. And if you're into women and trans women, then you're gynosexual, as I mentioned earlier. Because trans women and women, their gender identities are still female, right? So they're just the same. And for men and trans men, their gender identity is male, so they're just the same. Number 4, can I be cisgender and gay or lesbian at the same time? The answer is yes, because I've mentioned being cisgender means that, for example, if I'm a cisgender guy, my gender identity is male, my gender expression is masculine, and my biological sex is male. So people will not confuse me as anything. So if you're a gay man, then people still perceive you as a man, right? And if you're a lesbian, then you're most likely a femme lesbian. Okay, we're done. So if you found this a bit confusing because of how some terms have almost the same meaning with other terms, don't worry, that's normal. I didn't get everything the first time, and I don't expect you guys to be the master of gender right away or whatever. I have to admit, my knowledge about it is limited, and I'm the one teaching you guys. My point is, at least you guys know how complex gender really is. The most important thing that I want you guys to always remember is that in the end, it all depends on the person's perspective, on how they see their identity as. Now, some gender identities might be confusing to you, but it is not at all confusing to them, because if it was, they wouldn't call themselves that. Feel free to correct whatever it is that I've said that was wrong, because as I've said before, I'm only sharing to you guys my own understanding and not everything that there is about gender. I really wanted to thank everyone who took the time to watch, respond, like, or share my basic SOGIE video, and to everyone who subscribed to my channel. Thank you so much. I was overwhelmed with how people reacted positively towards it. It only shows that there are a lot of people out there who are willing to know the things that are worth learning about gender. I will be making a Trans 101 video because I feel like there's a lot of things that the people usually around me do not know about it yet. Thank you so much, guys, for watching my video. I hope I didn't take up so much of your time. Bye!